My bacon-wrapped turkey breast stuffed with pear hash. Let's get to it by starting with my brine. I've already added some sugar into my water here, and that's all a brine is sugar and salt. So salt goes in right here, and then if you want to get fancy with the brine, then you start adding a little bit more flavor. So I'm going to do some red chili flakes for a little bit of spice, and then I've got some sage and thyme here. So some sage in, and then to that I'm going to add some thyme. Now, all really a brine is kind of like a marinade. You can put this in the refrigerator for an hour or so, or you can do it overnight, but make sure when you do brine, you use kosher salt. All right, so here are the breasts I'm talking about. I'm gonna go ahead and get these into my brine liquid here, skin on. And when you get them at the butcher, sometimes the tenderloin is still in there. It's kind of like a loose piece of the turkey right here. Just pull it right off, save it to the side for something else. We don't want it in the actual turkey breast though, because it makes it kind of hard to roll up at the end. All right, let me get this into the refrigerator just for about an hour or so. That's all you want to brine it for. But like I said, if you've got time, do it overnight. Makes it nice, moist, and very flavorful. All right, so I've got my shallot here. I'm gonna go ahead and mince it up, and then I've still got the thyme and the sage. If I'm gonna brine the turkey breast in it, why not stuff it with a little bit of that flavor as well? So I'm gonna chop up the herbs along with my shallot and get it ready for the saute. All right, so I've got the thyme, sage, shallots all chopped up and ready to go. I'm gonna get some butter into my pan now. I've already got preheated so I can saute them up. Just a couple of tablespoons. All right, those are in. I'm gonna move those around a little bit so nothing burns and everything gets lots of butter. Gonna get some salt on the situation and some red pepper flakes. So I'm just gonna peel my pears and get ready to go. Now make sure when you buy pears, you get the firm kind because this is gonna cook twice. We're gonna saute it in the pan and then also roll it up with the stuffing in the turkey breasts. I've got some walnuts I've gone ahead and given a chop to. I'm gonna use some of the walnuts in my pear stuffing. So remember I have my pear that I went ahead and diced and got really nice and tiny. The cool thing about a really firm pear is it's gonna hold its shape in the saute process. All right, now to this, I want to add some breadcrumbs, of course, in every stuffing. Got to have some kind of bread action. Don't do the Italian ones, though. Just the plain is good to go. And then to that, just to moisturize and hydrate it, I'm going to get some chicken stock out. Now, if you've got turkey stock, you know that's where you should really go for this. But chicken doesn't hurt at all. Just go ahead and pour some in. Eyeball it. What you're going for here is something that kind of brings everything together, but doesn't turn it into mush. Now I want to show you my turkey breasts here. When you get it like this, there might be that tenderloin in there. Just pull it right out, and then right in the center, you kind of want to make a cut and then start kind of fanning it out. Our goal here is to make it nice and flat so it's easy to roll. You're going to use some plastic wrap. It's going to kind of help you roll up your turkey breasts and secure it, make it nice and tight so when you get it into the fridge for a rest and you bring it back out, it's going to be easy to twine up. There we go. Another strip. And this is going to wait for the next one. All right, here we go. I've got my turkey breast here. All I got to do now is get my stuffing into the center, roll it up, and get it ready to put into the refrigerator. All right, my breast is stuffed, rolled up. Now I've got to wrap it with bacon. All right, now this is perfectly rolled, stuffed, and wrapped with my bacon strips. I've got some paprika right here that I've got on the side. Now this is the key to making a really nice and tight roll, so when we get it out of the refrigerator, we can go ahead and twine it up. So I kind of like to do the same effect, pull the ends in, and then just roll it up really tight. I've got my cast iron pan here ready for the sear action. Just gonna get some oil down on it and show you how to do this. Now the reason that I'm twining this up is because I want it to hold its shape. I've worked a long time on, rolling this up and putting it in the plastic, and then we put it into the refrigerator for about an hour so it can kind of just maintain its shape. So a nice tight tie right here does the trick. Cut off the excess. And that's it. Just gonna get these into my pan now for a nice sear. I've got my oven preheated now at 375 degrees. Turn that off. I love a cast iron. Now, the cooking time for this is about 60 minutes, but this is something that you really want to temperature check. So I suggest right around the 50-minute mark, you get your internal thermometer in there. And what you're looking for is an internal temperature of 160 degrees. And when you take it out and let it rest, it's going to have some carryover time, and the temp is going to come up for you. Look at that. Come on. Isn't that pretty? I love this meal.
Stuffed beef tenderloin with the beautiful winter flavors of dry cranberry, dates, some fresh thyme, sage.
Ooh.
And we're gonna make it very easy for you to cook at home. So starting with the beef tenderloin. This is the center cut portion of the tenderloin, which we are gonna butterfly and stuff. Okay, first, Geoffrey, you're gonna sue for me. I gotta chop this sage and mince these fresh chives.
That's it?
That's all you need to do. I just need
Take
you
your
by
time,
me.
GZ.
I just want you
want
by
the
me.
vibes.
I want the vibes from you, all right? So here's our tenderloin, right? You wanna make sure that silver skin is off, it's nicely trimmed, and we're gonna butterfly, so you want a sharp boning knife. And all we're gonna do is about a half of an inch from the bottom. We're gonna start using that knife, all right? This is kind of partially done. You can have your butcher do this. But all you're gonna do is make a quick little, nice even cut like that, and then when you get to the end here, you just kinda splay it open a little more so it's like a book.
Always think of it like a paper towel roll that I'm unrolling.
Yeah, nice. Before we start on our stuffing, which I got going here, let me turn this on. I got some shallots and some butter, just at a gentle simmer here. Sweat those out. To this, I'm gonna add some dates.
I love
bejeweled
dates.
Real nice in sweetness, and for some tartness, some dried cranberries. And these are all kind of pantry pulls right here. Very easy. We're gonna get these kind of activated in the oils, help marry those flavors of the shallot and the sweetness and all that. We're gonna add some thyme, fresh thyme. I love thyme, and our next ingredient, once this kind of starts getting all broken down and everything. Can I have that sage right now, please? We're gonna add that right in there, and when the sage hits the butter and the shallots and all that, just
Smells like
holiday
holidays.
magic happens,
Yeah.
right? All right, beautiful. Once we get all those aromatics and nuts sweated out, we're gonna add some dry sherry.
Oh.
Oh.
And this is gonna help kind of create almost like a paste, if you will. So we're gonna simmer this for about 5-10 minutes until it turns into this consistency right here, right? Everything's bloomed, those cranberries have plumped up, the dates have plumped up, so we got all those flavors, sweet, tart, and we got our butterfly tenderloin here, which we're gonna season the inside of it first. Don't forget this step. You want top to bottom seasoning. We'll salt and pepper, and we'll get the outside in a minute.
It's like a brujol.
Almost crust to crust it. It is like a
brujol.
fancy brujol. You know, minus flank steak, minus breadcrumbs and Italian seasonings and all that. We're going a little more holiday forward here. So you want to leave a little bit of give here on the end, about a half of an inch, because we are going to be rolling this up. We don't want too much spilling out. Next comes, I need some crunch in this.
Yeah.
Another more almost Middle Eastern kind of Mediterranean flair to this. Some chopped Marcona almonds.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
So the Marcona almond is from Spain, and you know, a California almond is usually a little longer and drier, and the Marcona has more oils to it, it's shorter, it's called the queen of almonds.
So now we're gonna roll it up, just like you would a pinwheel or whatever. Now, Geoffrey, you can grab some of that thyme for me, and just, we're going to, it's okay if some spill, and we're gonna clean it up before it goes in the oven. And instead of doing like one long...
No, those, I don't like that.
This is easier to cut with, it presents better. You get to actually, how many people in your family? Just do one tie per people, and you got perfect slices, and have them dealing with taking the twine off. Beautiful, so we're gonna do that. Just keep doing that, Geoffrey, please. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. But after it's done, so this one, damn, Geoffrey, you can do a little more, but since there's 4 of us, I did four ties on that one. That's it, right? It's kind of protruding. We're gonna season the outside, right? Don't neglect it. We haven't hit the outside yet. A little salt and pepper on there. And we got our oven set at 225. It's gonna go in there for about 2 hours till it hits 120, 125. Really low and slow method. A lot of times this method is applied to like prime rib roast and stuff like that, where you wanna get top to bottom, even medium rare. And you can't really cook this over medium rare. It's a tenderloin, you wanna treat her gently. Cook it to medium rare is perfect, right? Not a lot of fat in here, but a ton of flavor and real soft, nice meat. So this is going in the oven. 225, about 2 hours. Keep an eye on it, keep your thermometer ready. I got one here that's been in the oven for about an hour, 45 minutes. I took its temp, it's about 122, 123, that's perfect. We just wanna sear it now. We don't wanna cook it anymore. We just wanna put some color on that outside. Because even though we cooked this perfectly, all of our stuffing is heated through, it's all melded with the meat and everything. It's 125. We do wanna create that crust that we all love on a tenderloin. And what's better than to impart that color on there? Butter.
Yes.
Oh.
You can literally tell how
Careful.
juicy it's gonna be just by just how it looks.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, I got another one here for us because I don't want to wait around anymore. I know you guys are hungry.
Yes, we are.
A beauty of this method, when you go low and slow like that in the oven, you don't really need to let it rest because it's essentially been resting for
That's
2
right.
hours in there, but this one is rested and I'm ready to carve.
Very little shrinkage.
Very little shrinkage because it didn't seize up when it hit a super piping hot oven or a grill or whatever. Right now, again, you could cut this off, but I like cutting it with it on, and you can always, let's see.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness. Money shot.
Man, that smells so good.
I'm gonna tear this up.
I don't think we'll be able to find Sonny for the next hour.
It's only gonna take 2 minutes. Man, Jeff, that looks beautiful.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
My goodness.
Get
Nice.
that guy. I don't want to. I love the ends too, right? One more here. A little horseradish cream sauce.
Do it!
Look at
There's
that.
a place I like to go that has a chocolate fountain and prime rib.
Look at that. I even did some fancy
reminds
stuff
me of
for
that.
you, buddy. And look at, boom, put that right
Buffet.
in there. And then.
Happy holidays.
Your plating flair is on a 10.
Well, thank you. Just be careful of the strings in there, obviously. You do want to cut them for your guests, but
Look at that.
I believe you guys can handle it.
Tender, Jeff.
Tenderoni.
The addition of the fat that's naturally in a filet mignon really puts us over the edge.
We're making pot roast today. We are going to use some super secret flavor weapons. So I have my chuck roast. We'll get back to that in 1 second. But I have a pan here where I'm gonna heat up some oil and we're gonna brown it because, well, brown food tastes good. Ah, excellent, that's what we're doing. So, I'm taking my pot roast. I'm actually tying this guy up because I'm going to braise this piece of meat whole, low and slow in liquid. That's what braising is. This is not a like, let me think of what to make for dinner. I have 45 minutes and let me whip out a pot roast. So, but I'm tying this guy up so that I can actually slice it later on. It keeps my piece of meat all tight and firm. Otherwise, it would just kind of fall all apart. That's what braising does. So we just go over my hand like this. We go underneath a little bit. Here we go. Oh, beautiful. We go downtown, underneath, and we start right back at the beginning where we started. We finished there. Excellent. Look at that. Nice. Okay, so my oil's nice and hot. I'm gonna add this to my pan and I'm gonna hear, ah, yes. So we're gonna be creating brown food. Ha ha, beautiful. Okay, thank you for coming, extra string. Here we go. So we're listening for the nice big huge sizzle. I love that. All right, I have my standard flavor bases. I have celery, I have a little garlic, I have thyme for my thyme bundle, and I have a couple of onions that while my meat is browning, I'm gonna get prepped up. Oh, beautiful brown food. Hello, gorgeous. Oh, look at this big brown meat been achieved. Oh, looks gorgeous. So, look at that. We're ditching the excess fat in there, And I'm gonna start over with a tiny bit of new oil, just, to keep things nice and fresh. And I'm going to toss in my celery and onions that I prepped up. This is my mise en place. Look at this piece of cake, and it makes things so much fun and easy and smelling delicious. So we're going to sweat these. I'm gonna give it a little salt and then toss in my garlic and thyme, my standard flavor bases. Yes. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Smelling delightful. Okay. There we go. Got a little pinch of crushed red. Now I'm adding some garlic to this. So I've got tomato paste. This always goes in braised stuff. And a little bit of red wine vinegar. So I'm using red wine vinegar in the place of wine. It has that acidic function and it helps tenderize our meat a little bit. About a half a cup or so of this. I'm using some beautiful citrus flavors. We've got our star anise going on there, which is a warm sort of along the lines of cinnamony kind of things. Let's add a couple of these, 2 of these, and look how pretty they are. And why are they called star anise? Because look at, they're stars. Hello, stars. This makes me a superstar. Okay, a couple of bay leaves. So it's kind of interesting. We have like the meeting of the old and the new going on here. 3 bay leaves, my thyme bundle, and my chicken stock. So I'm gonna start with about 2 cups of this guy and put that in. Oh, beautiful flavors happening. I'm gonna bring this to a boil, and then I'm gonna put my meat back in here, and then we're gonna toss this guy right in the oven. So we're gonna get everyone all nice and hot for a second. Meat back in the pan. We kind of snuggle that right in there, so we're making kind of like a meat jacuzzi. Hello, big meat jacuzzi. And we're gonna put a lid on it. Now, I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to toss this in here and I'm gonna check it in about it's a heavy, heavy pan. I'm gonna check it in about an hour. So I'm now prepping up some butternut squash and these cool things. These are Jerusalem artichokes, or we call them sunchokes. 6 or 7 figs. I'm just gonna cut the stems off and I'm gonna cut them into quarters, and you'll be like, oh, wow, I just got a lovely little sweet burst in there. Okay. Oh, this smells so good. That is good stuff. The vinegar gives it a really bright flavor, and I feel that little bit of orange zest and the star anise. So I'm adding all of my other super secret flavor weapons in there. Oh. And I'm going to return my meat to my pan. I look at it and we're like, oh, look at that's getting beautifully tender. It's not quite exactly where I need it to be. So I'm going to return this to the oven for 45 more minutes. So I'm gonna roast it, or I'm gonna braise this for 30 minutes with the lid on, and then the last 15 minutes, take the lid off so the flavors really have a chance to concentrate. And so when we get to dinner, everything will be like, oh, big, huge, delicious, really excellent flavors. So look at this gorgeousness. So I'm just gonna give this an untie. When we tie meat up, we have to remember to untie it always so we don't floss and eat at the same time. So that's not the multitasking we want to do. So thank you for coming. Oh, look at this gorgeousness. Oh, yes. It smells so good. I'm just gonna give this a little slice. Oh, beautiful. So here we go. We put a few pieces of that on there. Oh, look at that. All right, so a little bit of my sauce, my braising liquid. So this really concentrated in flavors. I took the lid off for the last 15 minutes of cooking time, and I wanna make sure I get all the stuff in one bite. Whoa, the sweet of the figs and the squash, I did an excellent job. I'm a happy, happy girl, and this is so not your mama's pot roast.
My rosemary rib roast. It is a juicy, tender, perfectly cooked piece of meat, and I'm serving it with an herby mayo. This is a 3-bone rib roast, 6 pounds, and I'm gonna sprinkle it all over with kosher salt. I'll refrigerate this now, uncovered, bone side down, for 4 hours to let it work its magic. I can't wait. My rib roast has been curing in salt for 4 hours, and I've allowed it to come to room temperature so that it cooks evenly. It's almost ready for the oven, but first I've got to rub it down with an herby mixture to enhance its flavor. I'll start by chopping up some fresh rosemary, which goes brilliantly with this meat. I'll chop up 1 tablespoon. Get this into my bowl, along with 2 cloves of finely chopped garlic, some black pepper, and I'll bring this together with some olive oil. Give it a little mix. I'll set this aside, and then I'll cut a crosshatch pattern into the roast, and that's gonna crisp up and get really gorgeous. To do that, I've got my sharp knife here, and I'm gonna cut parallel lines about 2 inches apart, just into the fat. I don't wanna go down into the meat. Scoring the fat like this will really help the herbs penetrate and infuse it with goodness. All right, now I'll shift this and do the same thing with lines going perpendicular to the ones that I just cut. Okay, I'll rub this down. Getting in here with my hands. Rubbing into the cuts I just made. Alrighty. I'll get this in the oven at 250 degrees for 3 to 3.5 hours until the internal temperature is 135 degrees for a radiant medium doneness. My mouth is watering already. The rosemary is wafting through the air. I'm gonna check on my rib roast. It's been going low and slow for the past 3 hours and it smells incredible. I could smell this all day long. I kind of have been, I guess. Looks so juicy. Now what this needs is a golden crust of flavor. I've got a cast iron pan here heating up to medium high, so it's quite hot. There's some oil in here as well. It's crust time, baby. Here I go. I'll sear this fat side down first. I'll let this sear now on medium high until it's golden brown, a few minutes per side. That's looking good, and it's smelling outrageous. I'm gonna get this out of the pan, and I wanna allow this to rest for a good 30 minutes so that those juices can redistribute. And in that time, I'm gonna make a creamy sauce for serving it with. I'm taking the best parts of a gremolata, so a bunch of herbs, and making them a little indulgent with mayonnaise. And I'll combine it with 2 tablespoons of fresh ground horseradish. I'll zest in a lemon, and loads of chopped parsley, loads of chopped chives. Bring some beautiful greenery to the dish, but also provide that freshness. A little salt and pepper. And I'll mix this up, and that's it. Easy peasy. Okay, I'll set this aside and cut up my meat. Using the bones as a guide, I'll just go right in between. Oh yeah, that's a big slice. And then 1 more slice. Okay, I'll plate this up with the gremolata on the side. Hello. Sprinkle with some flaky salt. And get my gremolata into this cute little dish. Okay, this is one big honkin' piece of meat.
Pork tenderloin, it's stuffed, wrapped in bacon, and it's worth every step. So I started by pounding a pork tenderloin, a whole tenderloin, really, really flat. Now I'm going to season the pork with salt and pepper. And then I'm basically going to put a filling on top. So it starts with cream cheese, and I've been softening this for a couple of hours, so it's pretty soft. I'll just put it face down and just kind of spread it all the way to the end. And you want to leave quite a rim on either side. And then pesto comes next, 1/4 cup. I'll just plop it right on there. And then I've got sun-dried tomatoes, and I'll just sprinkle those all over. Pine nuts for a yummy flavor and crunch. And then spinach. This is really a pretty filling for the pork tenderloin. Okay, so I'm gonna start rolling it and try to get it into a neat roll. Wish me luck. I'll pull up the side closest to me, and then as I roll it, I'm just gonna try to keep it super tight so all that filling kind of stays right in the center. And then I have another little surprise. I have a piece of plastic wrap on a separate board. Get off! and I shingled bacon slices. So look at this, Alex. How beautiful. Okay, so I'm gonna start rolling, and I'm gonna use the plastic wrap to kind of be a guide. Can you see this? And as I roll it, you can see that the bacon is totally encasing the pork. Pork and pork. Delicious. This is a really great recipe, and you can make it, you know, it's really not too complicated that you can't make it for family, but it's really good for company. Okay, I'm gonna take the plastic wrap out from underneath, and then I just need to tie twine around the pork just to keep everything really tight. I'm gonna tie about 4 pieces here and there. Now I'm gonna put this onto a sheet pan, and then I'll just put this into the fridge and let it chill until dinner time. And when I'm ready to bake it, I'll put it in a 400-degree oven for about 45 minutes. But we don't have to wait that long right now. I'm gonna put this in the fridge, go wash my hands, and then I have a surprise for you. Okay, my hands are clean, cutting board's clean. I did a little cleanup job. And look at this. I actually made one earlier just so I could show you how wonderful this is. Look, Alex. Look at the bacon, how beautiful it turned out. And you know we have to cut into this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Come in here. I'm gonna turn this way so you can see. You can snip off the little pieces of twine, but I can't wait that long. I gotta show you. Second piece is always prettier. Wow, look at that.
This is our turkey. It's a 10 to 14 pounder. This is really a perfect size for butterflying, which is basically just taking out that breastbone and then splaying it. I like to kind of also leave some of the breast in there when you take the backbone out because it provides some flavor. I said breastbone, I mean the backbone. So the way I brine this is I get into a big old pot of water, some salt, whole black peppercorn, some thyme, sage, and a whole orange just in half. And then I bring it up to temp so everything dissolves. Drop the turkey in there, let it sit for 24 to 48 hours, and then you're gonna take it out, pat it dry, leave it in the refrigerator so the skin can get dry. Butter cubes, they're cold. You're just gonna get underneath the skin as many places as possible and get those butter cubes in there. I like to use salted butter because obviously it's already got the flavor. And then I'm gonna work on the very simple orange spice rub. So the first thing I'm gonna add to it is a little bit of chili powder. You can do ancho chili powder, just, you know, run of the mill. A little bit of hot Hungarian paprika.
There it is.
So that goes in. And then some cumin. And then from an orange, I just took the zest. And then a nice heavy helping of salt. Remember, this is a 10 to 14 pounder. And that salt really also helps bring the moisture out of the skin and give us some crispiness. All right, and then just mix it up. Now, when you make this rub, I'm gonna reserve a little bit here that's gonna go into our glaze and flavor up the glaze, but the rest of it, it's ready to go for you. How you doing with the butter?
We're doing good. My distribution is pretty darn good. I
Yeah,
like
it
to keep
is.
it more on the apex of the breast so it's gonna melt down rather than
Cascades.
wasting it, because it's gonna drop out then. So I
Exactly.
really like to get it all up in the business.
I
here.
agree. So then, just
there you
gonna
go.
hook you up with some olive oil, and then, if you don't mind, rubbing it. I'm just gonna put it over here and then just
do it.
rub like
Go
crazy,
in there,
dude.
Jeff, come on.
Go crazy. Really quick for the glaze, which is gonna happen about 30 minutes after we get this bird into the oven. And I've got the oven preheated at 400 degrees, and I'm gonna drop it down to 350 as soon as we put the turkey into it. But this is a 3-ingredient glaze. This is honey, orange juice, and then the other ingredient would be the spice rub here that we just made. Get it into the roasting
Then
tray.
cook it and carve it.
And throw some water beneath it, okay?
Why stop
400
working?
degrees, okay? And then, Jeff, if you don't mind, turning it down to 350 for me. I love how you
Sure.
changed the temp on the oven. That's gonna cook for about 30 minutes, and then I'm gonna go in and start just kind of brushing it with this glaze. And then obviously it's gonna cook until it comes to about, I'd say 155-ish, and then it will get tinted and go up to 165 at that carryover cooking when we tint it. And because it's butterflied, only gonna take about an hour to 2 hours, which is a lot faster if we had the whole bird in there. We are ready.
Oh, man.
Jeff, do you mind closing this? Because it's gonna be heavy.
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh
I got
man.
you. I got you, Sonny. Holy smokes.
Look at this.
Now you're talking.
Baby.
Hello.
Look at that. I got the bones off of the one breast over there, and then sometimes I like to just get in there with my hands.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't really have to like get a knife engaged and then just pull that bone back out of there. That's the best part about butterflying is you get all of the skin. And then you still get the carcass, so you can come through and pick at it later.
I make soup out of this, or you can make
Turkey
salad.
salad with some green beans that you might have left over in that crisper.
I'm gonna
Ready to take
taste
this to
it.
the table? Yeah, you gotta taste that nice and
So
juicy.
look at how tender this
Listen,
is.
I mean, it really cuts down your cooking time when you butterfly. You take that backbone out, flatten it, 400 degrees, put it in the oven, pot it down to 350, 30 minutes in, start hitting it with that glaze. An hour or so later and you're done.
That orange is so subtle. I love it.
Orange marmalade glazed ham. So I'm starting with the most challenging part, which is scoring it. And I'm doing that because it's gonna look really nice with this gorgeous diamond pattern. And then it's also gonna catch the marmalade and create some nice caramelized edges. So to do that, I have a sharp knife and I'm creating some shallow lines that are parallel and diagonal. I only wanna go about 1/3 of an inch down because I don't wanna go too far into the meat and have it split apart too much. So do them 1 inch apart, go all the way over the equator and all the way down. So I've got all my lines going in one direction and now I'll turn it to make it easy to do my lines going in the other direction. I didn't actually eat a lot of ham growing up, but when I moved here, Nick's mom, Roxanne, would make a ham for every special occasion. And I fell in love with it. The leftover ham after those dinners was what I looked forward to. And I do so many things with leftover ham. I put it on pizza, put it in eggs and quiches. It's so versatile. Dare I say more versatile than leftover turkey? Sorry, turkey. Okay, I'm done with my scoring. I'll place this into my roasting pan, flat side down. And this is about an 8 to 10 pound ham. So just enough for me and Nick and Bernie. It's bone in and fully smoked. I'll fill my pan with 1/2 inch of water, and that's gonna steam the ham and make it extra juicy. Great. I'll cover it in foil. And this is gonna go in the oven at 325 for an hour. And then I'm gonna take the foil off and give it another hour so that the top can get crispy. And if at any point the water has evaporated from the bottom of the roasting pan, I'll just add a little more. I'm gonna make an orange marmalade glaze that'll be sweet and sticky and give a nice glossy shine on the ham. I'll start with 1/2 cup of brown sugar. And this is gonna caramelize on the corners of those scored diamonds that I cut. 1/2 cup of grainy mustard because ham and mustard is like PB&J. And 1/2 cup of orange marmalade. The orangey flavor is such a nice pairing with the smoky ham. I'll balance out all this sweetness with 2 tablespoons of sherry vinegar. And I'll spice things up with a teaspoon of ground coriander, which has some earthy citrus notes that'll go so well with the orange. These spices just add a little extra something special. It's Thanksgiving. And then a teaspoon of ginger. And then 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice. Allspice is so autumnal. It's perfect for this season. Some black pepper. And then I wanna add some of the juices from the bottom of the ham pan. So I'm gonna get that out. It smells so smoky. I'm gonna increase the heat of my oven to 400 degrees. And I'm gonna add about 1/4 cup of the juices to the glaze. And the juices are salty and hammy and so good. And I'll whisk this together. There are a lot of good flavors in here. I'll brush on my glaze liberally because I wanted to get into these folds. It's just gonna enhance the ham and make it the best version of itself. Thanksgiving is definitely one of my favorite holidays. It kind of signifies the end of the busy harvest season, so it's time for Nick to slow down and we get more family time and we can travel. And also, Thanksgiving is way more special now that we have our little turkey. I mean, ham. Bernie's definitely more of a ham than a turkey. Okay, this is gonna go back in the oven now at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes, and I'll brush it with the glaze a couple of times throughout so it can get extra glossy. I'm gonna get it out of the oven. I'm so excited about this. It looks beautiful and it smells incredible in here. I'm gonna plate it up. It smells so smoky. Here I go. 1, 2, 3. It sticks the landing. I'm gonna garnish with some orange wedges. And then some fresh rosemary sprigs will be really pretty, and rosemary goes beautifully with orange. Okay, let's get Thanksgiving started.
It looks amazing. This ham makes me a happy man.
Sage, shallots, mustard, parsley, olive oil, salt, and pepper. And I'm gonna take this loin and thoroughly season it. We're gonna make the glaze. Okay, so brown sugar, spicy barbecue sauce, star anise, a lot orange zest, cinnamon,
The whole stick.
chili, maple syrup. And you're just gonna bring that to a boil. Very simple, and that's it. Put it right in the middle. And then this,
Look
just
at
sort of
that.
into a 425-degree oven. Take it out for a second, and then you're gonna baste it with this beautiful syrup that we made. Look how nice it looks right now. Just baste it. And then, when it reaches 140 degrees, you bring it out and carve it.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that's
break it.
Yeah, that rub.
And my friend Antonia is coming. She thinks she's coming for dinner, but I'm making it a surprise party. I've invited some of her friends, and it's gonna be an Italian-themed party just for her. So the centerpiece of it is a whole fillet of beef. But I'm gonna do it with an Italian twist, balsamic vinegar. So I'm starting with 1/4 cup of Dijon mustard, 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. You wanna pick a really good one. This one's very syrupy, so it's sweet and also vinegary at the same time. Has great flavor and has that nice edge. 2 teaspoons of salt. Remember, this is an entire fillet of beef. It's gotta have great seasoning. Okay, I'm just gonna mix these together, and then I'm gonna brush it on the beef. So what I did was I asked the butcher to trim and tie a whole fillet of beef. And it's gonna really flavor it. My friend Brent Newsom taught me how to make this. I think he's the best caterer in the Hamptons, and that's saying something. So I think a lot of people are nervous about roasting a whole fillet of beef. I mean, it seems like a daunting thing, but it's actually really simple. As long as you follow a precise formula, high temperature, 500 degrees, 30 minutes, it comes out perfectly every time. Whole fillet beef is about 5 to 6 pounds, and it'll feed probably 10 to 12 people. Okay, now the good part, cracked pepper. 2 tablespoons of cracked pepper. It's coarsely cracked pepper. It's kind of like when you have steak au poivre. It's really coarse pepper. And 2 tablespoons seems like a lot, but remember, it's an entire fillet of beef. Into the oven, 500 degrees for 30 minutes, and it's gonna be perfectly medium rare. I'm gonna take the filet beef out. It's been roasting for 30 minutes exactly. I like nice thick slices, about a 1/2 inch thick. It's gonna look gorgeous.
Easy beef tenderloin with holiday pesto. And I'm creating a DIY carving station so their guests can make their own bites.
Ooh, zing.
Yeah, so this is really easy to do. You know, don't get weirded out by, you know, tenderloin or beef loin. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very simple to do. We're just going to brush it, we're going to rest it, then we're going to roast it.
Brush, rust, roast. All right, what do you want me to do
So,
here?
a whole lot of black pepper.
All right.
Yeah, loosen it up so it's nice and coarse. And matter of fact, I might help you a little bit. We also have some salt here, and then, come on, GZ, you know what this is.
Smoked paprika.
Yeah, it's Hungarian hot paprika.
Whoa, even better.
So smoky and spicy. If you can't find it, it's just, you know, smoky paprika and some cayenne pepper. Mix it together to your fire level. All right, so that's gonna go onto a baking sheet that I've got lined with some plastic wrap because I'm gonna roll this tightly in a minute. This is our loin right here, nice and trim. Take all the fat off of it. It's looking really good. Doesn't taper too much, but I do like that end of it. And then just kind of come in and brush.
If it is tapered, you could tuck it under and tie it off also. I don't want to stop grinding here while you're looking. Yeah, because we need a lot of black pepper. All right, so olive oil on all sides of our loin here. And like Jeff said, if you don't want to cut off the tapered ends, you can just tuck them. Okay, Jeff, then just hit over the salt. Okay.
Just a little sprinkle.
Very nice.
And then our hot Hungarian paprika.
Oh, that's great. You know, Sonny, like, Tenderloin is sort of getting a resurgence, right?
It's
come back big, and I'm so happy.
Yeah.
But it takes so much seasoning. That's what's great about it. So chili, paprika, all that stuff you're doing is so nice.
It's so great for a crowd, too.
Yeah.
You know, you have a really impressive dish that actually doesn't take a whole lot of effort.
No, it doesn't.
That's right. So
Really
look,
good holiday dish.
I'm just coming in here, kind of getting a little bit of contact space on our loin. And then because I have it pre-set up with the plastic wrap, I'm just gonna kind of go in here.
I love that.
Oh, refrigeration.
Give yourself a nice little burrito wrap on the ends here.
Do you do that overnight, Sonny?
You can do it overnight, but if you're in a pinch, you know, countertop for a couple of hours does the trick, and I've got one right here.
Okay.
It's tender enough. It's not like you got to make it any more tender. Wow.
So look at this baby, huh? Ooh. After it sits, it just really deepens in color.
And that's all gonna add to that crust.
Oh yeah, you need a nice crust for this. Just roll it right onto your baking sheet with the wire rack. If you happen to have one of those cavernous, like turkey ones or whatever, you can use that as well. Just put it in the bottom of the cavern. So we're gonna go into a 450-degree oven, really screaming hot, you know, GZ, for about 20, 25 minutes. We're gonna let it rest, which we've done, but before we bring it up, we're gonna make our pesto that goes with it on the side. That's gonna really help it kind of be like, you know, do-it-yourself guests. Enjoy the apps, you know what I'm saying? Enjoy the drinks, but make your plate on your own. So this is some parsley, some sage, flavors of fall, mint, which I really think does not happen enough in savory dishes.
I would agree.
Some rosemary.
Okay.
Pecans. I love pecans instead of pine nuts. They're the inexpensive way to do pesto for many. Some garlic.
It's the festive holiday pesto.
It is. It's a very festive holiday pesto.
It really is.
Little lemon zest and fresh lemon juice. Before I even go into blitzing, I'm just gonna hit it with some black pepper.
You can handle that. I'm done.
And then hit it with some salt. Jeff, matter of fact, if you don't mind grabbing the tenderloin and throwing down some nice slices on it.
So you let this rest, right?
Yeah, let it rest for, you know, as long as you want. You know, you can eat this room temp.
Look at that baby.
Chill, warm. Look at this honey bunny right here. Look at this. Come on. 360 degrees.
Look at that jiggle.
Yeah, and that's really gonna tell you. You touch the center, you kind of feel like it's nice and medium rare on the inside there.
125, right?
120, 125. Take it about 10 to 5 degrees below that out of the oven. So if you do internal thermometer and see that it's at about 115, 110, take it out, tint it, cover it up. That carryover cooking is gonna get you to the mark.
How long how thick of a slice do you want here, Sonny?
I'm a thin slicer.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, you know.
Want it to go. It's an appetizer. It's
yeah,
not
we're gonna
a
put
main
it
dish.
onto some crostinis, so thin slicing is kind of gonna do the trick.
No cheese, right, Sonny?
No cheese in this.
I like that. Careful, Jeff.
I'm trying everything in my power not to steal one, but I'm... Oh, that was a bad cut.
If you take the end, I'm not mad. I'm not mad if you take the end, because it's really hard not to.
I am.
Ooh, it's crunchy from all that.
A nice little spice crust going on there.
Beef loves pepper.
When I catered, you know, I never really did a lot of apps. It was all about like what was left from the previous cook, like lots and lots of shredded pork. Put it on a crostini. You know, that was my trick. Put whatever you have on a crostini. Goat cheese, who cares? But it's really nice around the holidays when you have your friends and family over to do something special. So just a little bit of olive oil over the top. So it happens when everyone scoops out.
How you doing over there, Mauro?
Oh, man. We're going,
There you go,
guys.
your holiday
We're moving.
pesto, red and green little bits of love in there. How you doing over here, Jeff?
We're good. I'm not, I don't want to cut all of it because I want something to bring to the hotel room tonight, but.
Look
All right,
at that.
but look at that. That is a heck of a start.
I shall take it.
Yes, madam.
Ooh.
Oh.
And here you have it.
Oh, beautiful.
Look at that. A carving station.
It's a carving
I love
station.
it.
Literally, all we need is that little lamp that goes right
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
And someone behind the scenes parsing it out so you don't get.
Yeah, it looks like.
I mean, that's
looks like tuna,
impressive.
the way you cooked it.
Jeff, you want to
it
hook
does.
up?
All right, yeah.
Yeah, pretend you're at my party,
Okay,
Jeff.
so I'm
Yeah,
here and I got
you're here.
crackers. I
on,
like
Jeff.
these type of crackers.
Yeah, we're playing music.
And look at that beautiful, festive holiday pesto right there.
You're
And
not
that-
even moving to the music.
Sorry.
This is a great party. I love the drinks. Hey.
I haven't seen
What are you doing for New Year's?
Jeff,
that's a
what
ra-
is going on with your ratio?
That's my favorite ratio right there. And look at this, just because I can,
Yeah,
This.
a
a little dollop on top. Double dollop,
Dollop.
one cracker,
Yeah,
a mound of meat.
okay.
This is how I do build
like
your
how you
own
do.
carving station.
I like your style.
Here.
That's going in.
Just go to the grocery store and get one of those
Yeah,
assorted
that
boxes
seems
of water
good.
crackers if you don't want to make the crostini out of your baguettes. Just as good. Yeah.
Holy Moses.
Holy.
So simple.
Oh man, I gotta go in more. What were you talking about?
I know, we were talking about this, Jeff. Is the Chicago man liking my meat? You like it?
First of all, the meat is perfect, and you need that peppery crust on it.
Yeah.
Because it almost like slows you down a little bit, right? 'Cause it's
Yeah.
like- you savor each bite, and it's got that cracker like texture on the outside. And that is a necessity in every bite.
Yeah.
All the herbs in there, the lemon makes it zing.
Sage, mint,
Spicy,
rosemary.
it's complex. And that tenderloin was so easy to do, and it's easy, look at that.
You saw it.
Perfectly medium rare
Gorge.
throughout the whole thing. Jalapeno honey glazed ham. It's gonna be a showstopper, a beautiful centerpiece, starting with this kind of shank end of the ham. We were just talking about Geoffrey. Geoffrey loves all leg meats of all sorts, he told us.
Yep.
And that shank bone is running vertically, and that's how we're gonna cook it. A lot of times that spiral cut ham is on its side. Right? It's kind of like that face and it kind of gets dried out. We got this beautiful fat cap on here. We got our oven set at 325. You don't really need to cook this. This is already cured, smoked, ready to eat as is, but we're gonna kind of glaze it up and make it a showstopper.
You gotta have a glaze on a
do.
ham.
So you get your sharpest knife, whether it's a paring knife, your chef knife's a little precarious for this. I have a box cutter that I just use for food stuff, right?
Rebel.
For scoring fish skin or meats or fat caps, whatever. So we're gonna start in the middle and just make these spiral cuts, kind of on a diagonal, even right through that fat cap. And what we're gonna do is put it in the oven after we score it without glaze, okay? So you don't wanna burn the glaze. And you're just gonna do this evenly, and it's so easy with a fresh, clean razor, more so than a knife. And now we're gonna do those horizontals.
For those of us that don't have this razor just hanging around the ranch, super sharp, could I use a little like serrated knife, my tomato knife that's super sharp,
Yeah.
paring knife?
You know, whatever, it is you trust the most in your, knife kit that you can trust to be sharp, because otherwise you're just gonna be dragging fat around.
And it's so important to score it because then you get those great crispy bits. The glaze gets down in there. I love that. That's my favorite part is the crust.
It's like a sand trap for glaze, right? We are going to put a little bit of water in the bottom to catch all that beautiful drippings and fat. Make a little ham stock in there, huh? Geoffrey loves ham stock.
love that.
All right, this is nice cover just to kind of get things started in here. Foil into the oven, 325, 45 minutes.
That's it.
5 minutes.
Yeah, until we start glazing. Okay, you don't want to glaze first.
Yeah.
Why, Geoffrey?
Burn.
Burntown.
Burn town.
All right, start that on medium and make a quick jalapeno honey glaze.
Jalapeno.
I like a little
Bold.
spice. I'm bold.
Ooh, Jeff with the spicy. You want to be GZ all the time. Look at you.
So this is just a whole simple bunch of ingredients, pantry pull stuff you might have laying around.
Yep.
We got some fresh orange to give it some zing. And we're gonna start with just the loosest thing, little apple cider vinegar, little Dijon
have it.
mustard.
Cosign. Jeffrey and I are on board.
Yeah, we are. on
All
board.
right, these are when you're starting with those two on anything, you're good to go.
Jeff, I care too. I think it's great.
Sorry, Katie, I forgot you were there for that. Sorry, Katie. Plenty of honey here, right? That's a lot of ham. Ham loves sugar. Ham loves a caramelized crust.
I think adding chilies is inspiring to this because that ham can take chilies. It can take the heat, all that fat. I think
It's so
really
heavy that you can put something spicy
like a lot,
in there.
like spicy.
So this is apricot jam. You can use orange marmalade. I love just the balance of flavor, a little different fruity vibe than the orange, which we're gonna use here in a second. Some diced, fresh jalapeno.
And you're going for it. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Oh, you got to, right? Come on.
Little smashed cloves of garlic. I don't want bits of garlic in there to burn when we're glazing up, so we get the essence, a little vibe on that, and of course some fresh OJ here. We're gonna zest it first, and then we simmer it about 5 minutes. We get this all beautifully married, and then we glaze our ham after that 45-minute mark. Okay, we squeeze a whole orange in there. Let's help loosen it up, get things expediting here, and a little black pepper. And then we, look at this, we turn it up to medium. We simmer it 5 minutes, let all these flavors melt together. So after 45 minutes, we're gonna start basting the ham in this glaze every 20 minutes to create that lacquered crust on it until the internal temperature is 130. Remember, this ham is fully cooked, but 130 is kind of keeps it super moist while ensuring that the outside is perfect. Jalapeno honey glazed ham, you guys, it is ready for you.
Jeff, I mean, this is like a thing of beauty.
Tell me that is not at least 43 times better than any ham you've ever seen in the history of
We're
hams.
not worthy. We're not worthy.
Now, remember, it was in the oven. We cooked it for 45 minutes at 325. Then we started glazing it every 20 minutes, and we got this beautiful little shellacked here lacquer on there, and I'm going to take it right out.
Oh my God.
Look at it. It's really working that thing out.
That is dramatic.
Yes.
It is.
I mean, I am salivating. Like, I can't handle this right now.
This way, because
Look
this
how
way,
beautiful. I like
How
how you're
moist.
kind of going thin, so you want to do like a little pile of slices.
yes, and lay them out on our sandwich bar.
I think it's best just slice the order, having someone just like when you want a sandwich, just slice it.
There's never a wrong way to eat ham. There's always a wrong way to build a ham sandwich.
Correct.
Okay.
So I took the choice bits for myself because it was the exterior, more glazed portion of the ham. You put that so the warmth of the ham slightly melts, just activates the cheese on the bottom.
Activates.
It like gives it a little warmth.
Exactly.
Cheese
tell you-
snaps into action.
I'm going straight Dijon, old school style, with just a light dollop of mayonnaise.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit, okay? Then I'm gonna put my little cornichons on there for a little briny punch.
Jeff, what about a sweet gherkin? You could do that too.
You do the sweet gherkin. Then, of course, a little bit of that pickled onion.
I love those.
So you got some nice overhang. We got some nice, each piece, because we cut it like that, it's got that crust on there, that glaze. Sometimes you gotta do the flip up, too.
Yeah.
Pinky up.
Oof.
I mean,
That Dijon hits the nose instantly and just like punches my sinuses while I'm eating all that little spice from that glaze on the ham, but a nice spice.
So the rosemary rack of lamb should be done. Let's take a look at it. Oh, this smells so good. I'm just going to cover it with aluminum foil and let it rest for 15 minutes while I tell you how I made it. I started with the rub. I put 1½ tablespoons of chopped fresh rosemary leaves with 1½ tablespoons of chopped garlic into the bowl of a food processor. Next, a tablespoon of dried oregano, a tablespoon of kosher salt, 1½ teaspoons of ground black pepper, and processed it until it was finely minced. Then I poured in 2 tablespoons of olive oil and processed it until it became a coarse paste. Next, I put 2 Frenched racks of lamb on a sheet pan with the rib ends pointing down and spread the herb paste evenly on both racks. Covered them, refrigerated them for 6 hours. Then I roasted them at 450 degrees for exactly 25 minutes for medium rare. First, I'll halve the cucumber, use a spoon to scrape the seeds out, then grate it on a box grater. It's a hothouse cucumber, so it's less watery than the regular ones. I'll put it in a clean kitchen towel, roll it up, squeeze it over the sink to get rid of as much liquid as possible, and put the cucumber into a bowl. Now, instead of using regular yogurt and draining it overnight, I'll add 2 7-ounce containers of Greek yogurt. It's already been drained, so you don't need to wait. Next, I'll add 1/4 cup of sour cream, 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, tablespoon of white wine vinegar, tablespoon of minced fresh dill, 1½ teaspoons of minced garlic, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, and just mix it all together. All I have to do is pour it into a bowl. I just love the tanginess and the freshness. Okay, that's all ready to serve. So the lamb is rested, 15 minutes. I'll show you how I carve it. So just a regular chef's knife is fine. I'm just gonna cut these into chops. You can do double chops or you can do single ones. I actually tend to do both, so somebody can choose what they'd like. This lamb is Frenched. All that means is the butcher's taken any extra meat off the bone, so it's nice and neat. Looks a little fancier. So I'll do one of these racks double ribs, and I'll do one as single ribs. This smells so good.
Shrimp scampi stuffed shells. We'll have a pan of it for dinner tonight, and then I'll put the second pan in the freezer, and we'll whip it out whenever we need it. I'm gonna let this keep cooking, and I'm gonna drain the pasta shells. I've been boiling 12 ounces of jumbo pasta shells, the kind that you wanna fill with all sorts of goodness. I need the shells to cool just a little bit before I stuff them, so this is a good time to do that. I've got 2 pounds of shrimp. I want the pieces of shrimp to be small and bite-sized. So I'll start to stir the shrimp, and then I'll add a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. Now I'm gonna add a little liquid to the pan, just a splash of white wine. You gotta have wine with shrimp scampi. It's a rule. And a squeeze of lemon juice, not too much. I'm gonna give this a little sprinkling of salt and pepper. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat off because this shrimp is done. And I'm gonna pour this whole mixture onto a plate. All right, I'm gonna turn the heat back on, grab some butter, and I'm gonna start on the white sauce. I'll put 8 tablespoons of butter into the pan to melt, then add 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, whisk it in, and cook it for 3 minutes. Next, I'll pour in 4 cups of whole milk and 2 cups of heavy cream, whisking constantly and cooking until it's thickened. The sauce is looking lovely and thick, so I'm gonna add more garlic to the mix. I use the first half on the shrimp, and the other half is going into the sauce. And then I'll add some minced parsley and salt and pepper. I love any creamy pasta dish. Okay, I'll stir this. Ooh, it's just glorious. Okay, I'm gonna let this simmer, keep getting more and more flavorful, and I'm gonna mix up the cheese mixture for the filling. It starts with ricotta cheese. I like to use whole milk. And then 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. I let it soften so it'll be easy to mix it all together. I'll add a cup of Parmesan and then a beaten egg to hold everything together. And the filling needs a little salt and pepper and parsley in here too. I like how you just keep layering in the flavors in all the different components. I'm gonna add every last bit of the shrimp. All right, now I'm gonna stuff the shells. First thing I'll do is put a little bit of this sauce in the bottom of the baking dish. For dinner tonight, I'm using a ceramic dish. For the freezer dish, I'm gonna use a foil pan. You want them to be full enough that it almost looks like it's about to pour out. And I'm gonna top the shells with more sauce. There is sauce everywhere you turn in this dish. You wanna add enough that it's just filling the pan, it's all around the sides. And then I've gotta add some more cheese, mozzarella this time. Pan 2 is destined for the freezer. So sauce, stuffed shells, more sauce, mozzarella, and that's it. So this is for a future dinner, and this is for tonight. I'm gonna get it into a 375-degree oven for 25 minutes, and that's all there is to it.
I'm making Duck breast with dried cherries and port wine. Seems a little like a restaurant-style dish, but it's totally doable at home. So I'm starting with 2 one-pound duck breasts. I'll show you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pound a little bit thinner so it tenderizes it, and it also makes it even. It cooks evenly when you put it in the pan. You don't want it really thin, you just want it evenly thin. So let's see. I use a rolling pin, you can use a meat mallet. A little bit more. I've got one done, and I just want to do the last one. I want these about 1 inch thick throughout so they cook really evenly. Almost there. These ducks are called mallard, which is different from that mallard duck swimming around in your pond. They're different. Best part is the skin's gonna be really crispy and the meat's gonna be so tender. Okay, that looks good. I'm gonna season it with lots of salt because I want the salt to get into the meat. So it's 2 teaspoons of salt on both sides, and then 2 teaspoons on the other side. It seems like a lot of salt, but it really makes a difference. Okay, so I'm gonna wash my hands, and then I'm gonna take it to the fridge and leave it there for 6 hours, and all the salt is gonna get into the meat, and it's gonna be so perfectly seasoned. Everybody's had duck where it's like really salty on the outside and kind of dead inside. This is gonna be perfect. Okay, into the fridge. And since I'm way too impatient to wait 6 hours, I have some that I put in 6 hours ago. So these are the ducks that have been marinated or seasoned. I'm just gonna turn them over, and I'm gonna score the top just lightly. You don't wanna cut all the way through to the meat. Just 3 in one direction, 3 in the other direction. And that allows the fat to cook off while it's cooking, because you want the skin to be as dry as you can. This is gonna ensure 2 perfect duck breasts. Okay, ready to cook them. This is how I do it. I'll put the breasts skin side down in a large, heavy-bottomed, oven-proof skillet with a tablespoon of canola oil and cook them uncovered over medium heat for 12 minutes until the skin is very browned. Then I'll turn the duck and put the skillet into a 375-degree oven and roast the duck for 12 minutes. So the duck is done. It's coming out of the oven. Ooh, that smells so good. And I'm gonna let it rest. Resting it allows the juices to get back into the duck, which is really important. It's about 15 minutes. Okay, next is the sauce. So I've sauteed 2 shallots and 2 tablespoons of butter, just until they're tender. Now I'm gonna add lots of good stuff. 1.5 tablespoons of sherry vinegar. That vinegar is a really good ingredient. Just think the duck is rich and you want something that's gonna cut the richness, have lots of flavor. 1/2 cup of chicken stock. Next is ruby port wine. It's like a fortified dessert wine. It's just delicious. I'm gonna put 3/4 of a cup in. It's a classic with duck. Okay, 3/4 of a cup of port wine. Next is 1/2 cup of dried cherries. I love these cherries. They're kind of sweet and tart. I really go with duck. Instead of fresh cherries, which aren't really available all the time, these kind of plump up and they're much more intensely flavored. Lots of salt and pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Give it a stir, bring it to a boil, lower the heat, and simmer it for 15 minutes. Wish you could smell the sauce. It's amazing. The cherries are all plumped up and the sauce is reduced. I'm gonna add a few more things. Just about 1/4 cup of creme fraiche, just to give it a little richness, because of course creme fraiche is always good. And then lots of orange. I'm gonna put in about 1 teaspoon of grated orange zest. I'm just gonna do it right over the pan so all the oils from the orange zest get right into the sauce. Oops, wrong side. I love the cherries and orange and sherry vinegar, that little hit of sherry vinegar and port wine. It's gonna be great with the duck. And then about 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed orange juice right into it. Adding the zest and the juice at the end really keeps that kind of brightness of the orange. I don't want it cooking away. That should do it. I'm just gonna stir this all together. Okay, I'm just gonna taste it and make sure the balance of flavors is right. It's really important to taste things as you go along. Wow, that's really good. You can really taste the shallots and cherries and the wine and the sherry vinegar. It's gonna be great with the duck. I love to serve duck with like steamed wild rice with like butter and pepper, maybe roasted carrots. Great combination. Okay, that's the sauce. So next, the duck. So it's been resting for 15 minutes. How good does that look? So I'm just gonna slice it. This is enough for 2, so I wanna slice it in pretty thick slices. Look how perfect that is. Ooh, wow. If you have smaller duck breasts, you can have 4 individual ones. But since these were pretty big, I have 1 for 2 people. If you're worried about cooking duck right, just get a little instant read thermometer and test the duck. It should be about 120 degrees for rare and 130 degrees for medium rare. It'll be perfect every time. Okay, that's 1. Now the second one. Just think about the duck. It's a little gamey, which is great. And then the sauce has cherries and orange and cherry vinegar and shallots. It's a great foil for it. Okay, so I'm gonna put the duck on a platter. Let's see if I can do it in one piece. It's amazing. It's still nice and hot from resting. The foil really keeps it hot. That's 1, and that's 2, and 2. I mean, who wouldn't be happy to go to your house and have somebody serve you this? A little sauce right on top. This looks gorgeous. Isn't that beautiful? Look how plump the cherries are. And how just rich and delicious the sauce is. And maybe so people know that there's orange in it, little orange on the platter. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Little orange going down the side. Little salt to finish it. And I would say that's duck breast with dried cherries and port wine. Good enough for a restaurant, but you can make it at home. Have fun.
Roast beef with a green peppercorn crust. I'm going to slather this roast beef with a delicious glaze, and that entails beginning with one of my favorite ingredients, mustard. 1 cup of mustard, and you need a lot of mustard because you got a lot of ground to cover when you consider coating the whole top of a roast beef. And yes, I know you think these may be capers. They're actually green peppercorns, and they're brined. And I'm gonna put 1 jar with the brine in whole. And the other jar, we'll just pour off the brine and give these a light chop so that some of them are whole and pop when you eat them, and some of them are integrated into the pastiness of the mustard. For me, they have a little bit of a taste that reminds me of mustard. So they have a little tang, a little acidity. It's gonna go wonderfully on the crust of this roast beef. So now that they're chopped and broken into smaller pieces, I'm gonna combine them with the whole green peppercorns and the Dijon mustard, plus that delicious brine that came with the peppercorns. And we'll whisk that all together. They really start to release their smell. It's wonderful. So to that, a little burst of freshness. This little bit of lemon juice will really counter the saltiness of the brine. And a little bit of olive oil, just to give it a little fattiness, in case that fat on top of the roast beef is not quite enough for some of us. This mixture, I'm gonna just slather it on top of the roast beef. And that reminds me, I want somewhere for all the extra drippings of this to go. I don't want them to be lost in oblivion. And there's only one solution: potatoes. I love Red Bliss. They're kind of waxy when they roast up. They have such a meaty and yet still tender and juicy texture. So we're gonna cut all of these potatoes in half and put them in the bottom of this roasting pan that is going to house our incredible roast beef. I want you to cut them lengthwise as opposed to crosswise, so we expose more flesh, and they'll be longer and more elegant looking once they're cooked. Look at this beautiful roast beef. This is a top round, just 10 pounds.
Just.
So that's only a couple of pounds for each of us. It's gonna be tight. We're ready to start seasoning up our roast and getting our potatoes in the bottom so that all this lovely stuff can drip down on them as the roast cooks. Shoba, reach in the fridge. There's fresh sage and thyme. We'll flake a little, mix them over the potatoes to give them a little herbiness and freshness, a little dab of olive oil, and just toss them, and we'll get them all in the bottom of this roasting pan. I have a really, really vibrant sauce that's gonna coat this, but I still wanna add salt directly on the meat so that as it cooks, it gets that saltiness all through. And for that, I like to use a nice coarse sea salt. When this salt is part of the crust, this is what's gonna draw out the moisture and leave us with beautiful flavor. Turn it. This is my holiday snowflake salt. Okay, my friend. Right down, and I put the fattiest side up, so that'll be directly exposed to the heat, and that'll help build a nice crust. Wash my hands. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. We're just gonna douse this in the mustard green peppercorn mix. Give it a last whisk to wake everybody up and tell them it's time to come to the party. And pour this right over the meat with complete and utter wild abandon.
Now, is this something you want to marinate for a while, or you can just get it on there, get it in the pan, and throw it in the oven?
I'm more interested in a peppercorn crust than I am really a deep, long-term marinade. See how it's kind of dripping down the sides there? Not bad. It's sort of like a holiday party dress on top of the roast beef. These look wonderful, and they're really beautiful. I mean, it's accidental that we chose a red potato, but it adds to the beauty of the dish. Thank you. Just to make sure we have enough. The rest. And we're just gonna lift this and dump truck it right on top of those potatoes. We're gonna get this going in a very hot oven, 20 minutes at 500 until we get a nice crust, and then we're gonna lower the oven to 350 degrees.
The moment we've been waiting for.
My goodness. My goodness. Look at those potatoes. So we have that lovely crust that the mustard and the green peppercorns and that brine. There's potatoes underneath. Beautiful.
Almost too beautiful to eat.
Almost. This roast has been in the oven about an hour and a half. 20 minutes at 500, where it got a nice crust, and the rest at 350 degrees, nice and easy. I'm gonna set this roast beef aside to rest, let those juices flow back through the meat, and then we will get slicing and eating. Yes. Okay. Now.
I'm thinking sandwiches already.
Doesn't this look gorgeous?
It's just so
Beautiful, medium rare.
Juicy. And it
Juicy.
smells amazing.
And you know, we don't really even need to make a gravy or fuss with a pan sauce, because all those wonderful juices that drip down got trapped by those lovely potatoes that I don't know why you're not passing around.
Right now.
We have this lovely crust on here. Dig in, don't be shy. It's the holidays. You can't be shy in the holidays. I swear mustard and green peppercorns were made for beef. They were made with beef in mind, I know they were. Such beautiful potatoes.
First, I'm gonna make the filling. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I love these Tuscan flavors, and I'm gonna put a little prosciutto in it to give it extra flavor. 1½ cups of onion. I'm gonna add 3/4 teaspoon of fennel seeds. It's gonna give it great flavor. And I'm gonna cook these together until the onion is tender. So I'm gonna add some garlic. 2 tablespoons, which is about 6 cloves. I always add at the end because you don't want to burn the garlic. That's a terrible flavor. Not good in turkey. So I'm just gonna cook this for about 30 seconds or a minute, just until you can smell that garlic. I'm gonna turn it off. Next, rosemary. It's got a lot of flavor. I need about 1 tablespoon chopped up. The next thing is 1 tablespoon of chopped sage, right in. So that's the herb and onion mixture. Next, the turkey. So what I asked the butcher to do is give me a whole boneless turkey breast with the skin still on. And then I asked him to butterfly it, which means to take it and fold it out. So he kind of cut this way and opened it up. And that way, I get the herb and onion mixture throughout the whole turkey. So first I'm gonna season it. You need 4 teaspoons of salt. Don't skimp on the salt, it makes all the difference in the world. And 1.5 teaspoons of pepper. Okay, the next ingredient is butter, because it's gonna keep it really moist. I'm gonna take 4 tablespoons, and I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I'm gonna grate it. It's kind of the easiest way to distribute it. You wanna make sure you get all the butter in, and just distribute it like this. And then it gets rolled up inside the turkey, and keep it really moist and delicious. Okay, next is the onion mixture. I'll just spread the whole thing out, just like this. Okay, and now prosciutto. So I'm gonna take slices of prosciutto and just lay them right on top. So I'm just gonna start at one end, and when it's done, you'll see it's gonna look absolutely gorgeous. So I've got kitchen twine. The tighter you tie it, the more evenly it's gonna cook. So really give it a nice yank when you're tying it. About every 1.5 inches. This'll feed probably 8 to 10. Now just to make it look really pretty, I'm gonna take sage leaves and put them underneath each of the ties. And then when it comes out of the oven, it looks just gorgeous. Okay, how does that look? I put it on a rack so it doesn't sit in the pan juices. It roasts evenly all around. Okay, right on top. Okay, it's pretty dry, but I'm gonna pat it dry with paper towels because it'll brown better if it's dry. Just pat it like that. Perfect. Brush it with olive oil. Make sure it gets nice and browned on beautiful brown skin. Of course, lots of salt and pepper. And last, I'm gonna put 1 cup of wine. Don't pour it over the turkey, pour it right in the pan. And 1 cup of water in the bottom of the pan. There are 2 steps. First, I'll put it in a 350-degree oven and roast it for 1 hour and 45 minutes. The time will depend on the size of the turkey, so check it with an instant read meat thermometer. And when it registers 150 degrees, it's done. Then second, and equally important, I'm gonna cover it with aluminum foil and let it rest for 15 minutes so the juices get back into the turkey. Okay, you ready for a gorgeous turkey? Ta-da! I love the way it looks. All the flavoring gets all the way through it. You can see the fennel seeds. Okay, so I'm gonna put 1 big piece right here. And then put the rest right on the platter. This is so moist, it doesn't even need gravy. It's got pan juices. Right over the turkey. I would say once you've made a turkey this way, you're never going back to the old-fashioned way.
I started with a 20-pound turkey, patted it dry, took out the bag of giblets, of course, and now I am going to truss the turkey, which just means tie the legs. So basically you just want to crisscross the legs and just tie them, and this makes sure that the turkey stays intact while it bakes. Okay, so what I did was just transferred the rack into the roasting pan, and I'm gonna put it into the oven for the first stage. And for that stage, I've got to cover the whole thing with foil. Here I go. So now, Alex, let's go to the oven, okay? Okay. 20-pounder. Hi-ya! So this is gonna go into a 275-degree oven. It's gonna bake for about 10 minutes per pound for the first stage, so I'll see you back here in 3.5 hours. Okay, so we're gonna move right along and get some herb citrus butter ready to smear all over the turkey. So I've got 2 sticks of salted butter, which is important. And I'm adding the zest of 2 lemons and 1 orange, and then some gorgeous fragrant herbs. I've got sage and 2 tablespoons of rosemary, about a tablespoon of sage, and then chopped thyme, about a tablespoon. I love fresh herbs. They make me happy. I love them in the morning. I love them in the night. I love them full stop. So the butter is all smeared together. You see that, Alex? Oh yeah. Doesn't that look yummy? Okay, so let's go to the oven. So, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. Oh,
You're getting your workout in.
oh my gosh. That's so heavy. Now, I want to warn you, before I take this foil off, it is not impressive looking at this stage. It's very pale, okay? But that's exactly what it should look like at this stage. Now, you can be neat about it and just smear it with a spoon, but I have never had more luck than when I just do it with my hands. So basically, you just want to smear this all over.
Getting a nice massage.
It is. It's just like giving it a massage. It's very strange, but. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a beautiful golden skin when it finishes roasting. Not only that, but it's going to add flavor to the drippings, and that's what we're going to use to make gravy. So all of this is going to make perfect sense before it's all said and done. Okay, so I'm going to put it back into the oven, but before I do that, I want to put a meat thermometer in the leg, and you want to go right behind the joint, deep into the turkey, and that way you know that the temperature is basically registering the coldest part of the turkey, so you know it'll be done if this is right. So I'm gonna leave it uncovered, put it back into the oven, turn up the heat to 350 degrees, and let it finish roasting. It's gonna take about an hour and a half, and I'll baste it as I go. Okay? See you back here then. I think the turkey's ready. You ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, it's... Oh, hello, my beautiful baby. Oh gosh, it looks amazing. The temperature's at 165, and that's when I like to take the turkey out. It'll keep cooking for, 10 or 15 minutes when you pull it out. So you don't want to overcook it or dry it out. So I need to let the turkey rest before I carve it. So I'm just gonna loosely cover it with foil. Lots of foil on Thanksgiving. And then I will come back and carve in a little bit. I'm here to show the kids what carving a turkey is all about, so I'm gonna do my level best. I like to start with the breast. So I cut down the center. Alex, do you wanna get this? And there's a little breast bone, and you wanna cut right down either side of it. And so now you have two halves of the breast. I never wanna kind of cut it short and not get all of that beautiful meat. This is a juicy turkey. Here is a beautiful breast half, okay? So I'll put that over to the side and I'll pull the other one off. It helps to have a very sharp knife. Lad who? I mean, look at this perfectly cooked turkey though.
Oh, baby.
It's gorgeous. All right. Now I'm just gonna keep going. It's just gonna take me about 4 seconds. So isn't that a gorgeous platter? And then all that you need to do after that is just garnish the platter. And I like to do oranges. Paige, you wanna come help me?
Sure.
And then some sage leaves. I love the combination of citrus and herbs. It's so pretty. What do you say, Paige? Should we go on down to the house and leave these guys behind?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Happy Thanksgiving. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, this is beautiful. Roasted Thanksgiving turkey, all carved, put on a platter with some garnishes. Absolutely perfect.
I start with 6 cups of water, 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce, and then for that little touch of sweetness to kind of glaze the skin and counter the salt from the soy, 1/3 of a cup of honey. I'm just gonna bring the honey, soy, and water up to a boil. And that gives me a minute to look at my duck. Now, I have a lot of excess fat here around the edge, and normally I might clean that off. But the truth is, I wanna roast this duck and get all those drippings, let that fall down into the pan, and I'm gonna steal that and use it to cook my lentils and my cipollini onions. I'm gonna put a little green peppercorn glaze on this duck once it comes out of the oven. These are green peppercorns in their own brine. And I wanna sneak this wonderful salty brine into this foundation, just to add that extra bit of sort of vinegary, salty kick. Pick it up, and right into this lovely warm, did you hear that sound? It was kind of like a little shh. I'm not cooking this, I'm just infusing the skin and the duck with this soy and this honey and this warm water. This is kind of like when you put a warm washcloth to your face after a long day. This is just gently opening the pores of the skin and allowing that soy and honey to go in. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we all know that that breast meat is the cash money. That's what we really want to see golden brown and glazed when it comes out of the oven. So I'm gonna finish roasting the duck on its breast side and instead start it in a really hot oven, breast side down. So with nothing in the cavity, just that light glaze on the outside, I'm gonna put this in my 500-degree oven. So right when I put it in there, I'm gonna turn it down to 400 and cook it for about 20 to 25 minutes at that fairly high heat to really get the skin going. Now this is sputtering with that wonderful fat that's accumulated on the bottom. And look at how nice and golden brown and shiny the bottom of the duck looks. So this is just like flipping over your Thanksgiving turkey or a simple roast chicken. Gently lift it up, and I'll just flip that over on its other side. I want to just steal some of this wonderfulness from the duck. Now, I'm going to use this beautiful fat to cook my cipollini onions. And I can smell that little soy and honey bath we gave the duck before. I can smell those flavors just permeating the duck, and I can even smell it on the fat. And while I'm at it, why don't I just give the top just a quick baste with some of that fat, just to start to get that little golden brown top going. And now I'm gonna put this back in the oven at 400 degrees and cook it for another 45 minutes to an hour. I wanna be ready to hit it with a really nice caramelly glaze laced with green peppercorns. I start with a 1/4 cup of champagne vinegar. This is like the pure, raw, acidic element, like when you put vinegar in a salad dressing. Now for the salt factor. Much like the salt bath for the duck, I'm gonna do the same thing here by putting a 1/4 cup of soy sauce in there with the champagne vinegar. To go with that, a 1/4 cup of honey for that little straight sweet factor. And also, when this cooks down, that honey is really gonna be the foundation for that caramelly glaze. Now, I wanna add a little touch of fortified wine that's gonna give it a little dryness and a little depth of flavor. So I add about 2 tablespoons of a dry marsala. And then the last thing, remember that brine I stole from this jar to bathe my duck? Now it's time to pull out those green peppercorns. If you get a little brine that falls in there from the bottom of the jar, even better. I'm not gonna even stir it. I'm just gonna let all those flavors bubble down together on the stove until it becomes that caramelly glaze that we dream about. I haven't even touched it, but just listening to that sizzle, it speaks for itself. Now, just with that excess fat that's still in the pan, I'll just do one last baste. Now, these are these little moments that as a cook, you really get to share with yourself. Take that glaze. Just got that wonderful green peppercorn, honey, and soy combination with the brightness of the champagne vinegar. This, to me, is truly a religious experience. To pour a honey soy glaze over a duck is to know you're alive. I'm just gonna put this to the side for a few minutes and allow it to rest and let those juices flow back through the meat. I'm gonna carve this duck because I wanna share with you just how simple it is. Just cut around the thigh. If you could just smell this soy and this honey on here, it's intoxicating. Now, straight down the middle. Pull that breast away from the bone. How can you not stop and sniff? And just cut away that whole breast. And I'll just finish it, that last little dousing of the green peppercorns and that glaze. And now we're gonna enjoy it. It has that wonderful caramelly skin, picking up all those flavors, the green peppercorns, the soy.
I had to make a lot of really bad pot roasts before I finally figured it out. But once I cracked the code, I learned to appreciate how beautiful a good pot roast is. I've been browning some onion halves in this pan. Look how gorgeous they are. I love cooked onions. I love brown cooked onions. Now I'm gonna throw in some carrots. And this pan is really, really hot. And the point is to get a little color on these vegetables before we put them all in the pan together and cook the whole thing. I'm gonna grab my meat. Part of why I had to make friends with the pot roast is that I've always had a freezer full of roasts. Those are always the last things to go after the steaks and the hamburgers and the good stuff. And for the longest time, I just could not figure out how to make a good pot roast. Every time I made a pot roast, it was tough. And I thought, erroneously, that I was cooking the pot roast too long. So it was sort of a vicious cycle. The next time I'd make one, I'd cook it a little less. And the next time I'd make it, I'd cook it a little less. But what I didn't know, and what I would soon learn, is that pot roast needs to be cooked for a long, long period of time over low heat in order to dissolve the tough connective tissues in the meat. These carrots are nice and brown. It only took a couple minutes. That's what a hot, hot pan will do for you. Now, this is a chuck roast, which is my favorite cut of roast. Got salt and pepper on it. I'm just gonna press it against the bottom of that pan. Just sear it, get a nice golden brown on both sides. Okay, so I'm just gonna flip this over to the other side. It already smells delicious. And it hasn't even begun to cook yet. Okay, this is nice and brown. Now I'm gonna take the meat out just for a minute. And now I'm gonna grab some beef broth. Okay, that should be good. I've loosened up all those wonderful, flavorful particles in the bottom of the pan. And now I'm just gonna add the meat back into the pan, right into the liquid. And I'll just add the vegetables. And this would be delicious on its own, but I have found that a couple of sprigs of fresh herbs can completely transform a pot roast from delicious to life-changing. I'm using rosemary and thyme. You don't need to chop them up, just throw in the sprigs. Okay, now at this point it gets really, really complicated, so pay attention. You take the lid and you put it on the pot. It's not really complicated, I was just kidding. Now it goes into a 275-degree oven for 3 or 4 hours, depending on the size of your roast. You don't need to fiddle with it, you don't need to stir it, you don't even need to check on it. Just let it go. This looks delicious. This is what pot roast is all about. You try to take it out in one piece, but it falls apart. But that's when you know you've got it right. Now you can shred this with 2 forks. You can slice it with a sharp knife. It really doesn't matter what method you use because it all falls apart anyway.
A big fat roast beef dinner. We're getting a standing rib roast ready. It's a roast beef on the bone. Roasting all this stuff. Big, fat, succulent, big meat today. I have to say, at Christmas time and holiday time around my house, every year it's about the big beef, big meat kind of stuff. So I've got some mushrooms, baby carrots, onions, and celery that I'm gonna sit this big beef thing on. I'm gonna get some red wine and, you know, some aromatic stuff, some bay leaves. Where are they? Here we go. I'm gonna grab a little cayenne because I'm gonna use this in a sec to make a little crust on my big meat. So, about a cup of wine, get everything all sort of nice and, party started. It's not the holidays until, we have some drinking going on. I've got some chicken stock, some nice brown chicken, super rich chicken stock. Yes, babies. And definitely some salt in there as well. Hello. Yes, making everything taste delicious. A couple of bay leaves, and now we're gonna start working on my crust for my big beef. So I'm making a crust for my roast out of about a half a bunch or so of rosemary, which I'm gonna give a little chop, and then I'm gonna toss it right into my food processor. Okay, so rosemary ready to go into my machine with my favorite piece of kitchen equipment, a little bench scrape. Look at, makes me a super speed demon at the holidays and every other time of the year. All right, so let's smash a few garlics, about 3 or so. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Okay. Now we're gonna toss in a little pinch of cayenne as well, about half a teaspoon. So we're gonna go ahead and get this started, and then we're gonna drizzle in some olive oil to make a paste, and then we're gonna massage our meat. Extra virgin olive oil, of course. There we go, look at this, making a lovely paste. This is beautiful. Look at, this is huge. And the thing about this is that it's on the bone, and we love to have that roast meat on the bone. I mean, you think about when you make stock and stuff, and chicken stock or beef stock or anything else you do with, like, soups or things like that, you do it with the bone. So we roast the meat on the bone. Kind of slows down the cooking process, so we'll really, be able to do this low and slow, get a beautiful, huge color on this. Look at this. Huge color on this, and we're adding some beautiful, lovely crustiness on the outside of there. And you know what? Let's massage my big meat. Yes. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna put that right in there. I'm gonna wash my hands, and I'm gonna salt this bad boy, and we're gonna get it in the oven. All right, nice big salt. Big salt on the outside of there. Now, I've preheated my oven to 450 degrees, which is a high temperature. We're gonna put our big meat in there for about a half an hour or so. Let's just get the ends there, yes. For about a half an hour until we get brown food. Really good on the outside of there, gorgeous. And then we're going to turn it down and go low and slow and do beautiful roasty things. Of course, we're gonna check this occasionally to make sure happy things are happening. And then, moving on. Oh, look at that. All right, darling, we'll see you in a while. This has been in the oven, 450 degrees for about 30 minutes. I put some red wine and some chicken stock in the bottom of there. And you know what? I'm just giving it a little bit more of a lube job. Oh, keep things really nice and beautiful in there. Happy girl. Look at, hey, brown food, you're looking good. So let's go back in the oven. Woo, we're gonna go ahead, give this a little rotation as well. All right, so I'm gonna turn this down to 350 degrees. We're gonna go for another hour and 45 to 2 hours. We want this to be medium rare, and we're going to 130 degrees. So you know what? I am right on the money. And look how perfectly it's cooked. All the Who's in Whoville would be so happy about this. Oh, look at that. I did a good job on this one. I'm digging right in. Happy, I can't wait. Man, this would make anybody happy. I think this would even turn a vegetarian into a meat eater. Okay.
I sliced all of these cremini mushrooms. I'm just gonna saute them in a little bit of butter, a little bit of oil, until they're really sort of golden brown. This is a great dish for the holidays because we make huge amounts of it. I'm just gonna let them cook slowly so they get really nice and tender and browned. Okay, that's the mushrooms. So that's gonna cook away. Next thing I wanna do is make the sauce. The sauce is really easy. It's heavy cream, about a cup of heavy cream. I'm just gonna heat it up. And I think I'm gonna do some salt and pepper in it too. I use kosher salt and fresh cracked pepper and 2 pots of this white truffle butter. I'm gonna turn off the heat and just melt the truffle butter in it. Just let it melt in. You're not gonna believe how fast this dish is. And it's great for the holidays. You make large batches of it. It's good with chicken, as a side dish. It's great on its own with a salad. which is exactly what we're gonna be doing. Okay, that's just gonna melt right into that. I've got a large pot of boiling water, lots of salt, really important. I'm just gonna dump the pasta in. So this is fresh fettuccine. It's gonna cook in like 2 minutes. Fantastic. One more pasta. That's a lot of pasta. Okay, the mushrooms are cooking away. It's like a one-man song and dance band over here. I think the pasta's done. Just gonna drain it. Whoa, that's a big pot of pasta. So I'm gonna put the pasta right into the cream sauce, and then it really absorbs the flavors. Okay, fresh chives. I think they're really good on this pasta. Ooh, that smells great. So just toss it in with tongs. I can really smell the truffles and the butter and the cream. I mean, how good does this look? Wow. I'm gonna add the cooked mushrooms, all these cremini mushrooms with a little butter. And then the last thing is fresh Parmesan cheese. I mean, for a whole dinner, that was pretty fast, wasn't it? Lots of Parmesan cheese right on top. I'm just gonna toss it in with the tongs. Sprinkling of chives on the top, a little Parmesan cheese. And I would say dinner is served.
My brother-in-law Tim and his wife Missy are hosting Turkey Day today. Now Missy's gonna be responsible for the whole turkey spread. So I am gonna take a ham, not just any ham. This glazed ham is out of this world flavorful, and that's partly because of the glaze. The glaze starts with a cup of brown sugar and the juice and zest of 3 oranges. This is a lot of orange zest. I've also got a bunch of grated garlic, a couple of tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to give it a nice bite. And then I love the flavor of grainy brown mustard. I've got about 1/4 cup. Now for even more flavor, 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon and 1/2 teaspoon of paprika and the same amount of chili powder. And then of course some salt and pepper, just a healthy pinch of both. And then I'll stir this around and turn the heat to medium-high. Okay, now I need to let this glaze cook. I'm gonna stir it occasionally until it's nice and thick. It'll take about 10 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna turn the heat off and check out this glaze. It's really gotten thick in the saucepan. So now I can glaze the ham for the first stage of baking. I put the spiral cut ham cut side down on a roasting rack, and I'm gonna brush half of this glaze all over the ham. Now what I like to do is kind of use my fingers to spread apart the slices here and there and just try to tuck as much glaze as I can inside the slices. And that way when the ham bakes in the oven, the slices kind of separate out on the edges. Oh, the result is a miracle. You gotta trust me on this. Now I'm gonna tint the ham with foil, but first I wanna add some water to the pan just to make sure everything stays nice and moist. Okay. Just put the foil around the edges of the pan. Now I'm gonna get this into the oven at 325 degrees for the first stage. So let me pick up the story from there. So I was baking the ham, and after 90 minutes time, I turned the heat up to 375 degrees, removed the foil, brushed on the other half of the glaze, baked it for 15 minutes, basted it, and put it back in for another 15 minutes. And after all that baking and glazing, this happened. It was the big ham moment as I opened the oven to reveal a gorgeous caramelized glazed ham. Oh my goodness, it's a thing of beauty. And then I just put it on a platter, ready to cover with foil and take to Missy's to be devoured by the Drummonds.
roast chicken. I can do this in my sleep. So I'm gonna just check the chicken for any leftover pin feathers. And I'm gonna pat it dry on the outside. And I do that so that when I brush it with butter and salt and pepper, it'll stick to it. All the giblets have been taken out and saved for another time. So I'm just gonna stand it up like this and just salt and pepper the inside. And all you need to do is just take this whole lemon, cut it in quarters, and just stuff it in the middle. I'm gonna take this entire head of garlic, cut it right in half. It's gonna be just like a hint of garlic, and it gets into the juices in the vegetables in the pan. It's so delicious. And then I have some fresh thyme, and just stuff it right inside this great chicken. Now all I have to do is brush of butter on the top, salt and pepper, and it's ready to go. You want to melt the butter, but not let it burn. Butter's actually better for this than olive oil. The butter has some milk solids in it that burn a little bit, so it makes the chicken nice and brown. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to brush the entire outside of this chicken, this gorgeous little chicken, and then season it with salt and pepper. I know it seems like a lot of salt, but it's really important for the chicken to have lots of flavor, and that'll do it. And pepper. Okay, this looks gorgeous. Now the next thing I want to do is truss it, which is sort of to tie it up so that it cooks evenly. The whole point of trussing is if its little legs are out like this, the legs can very easily get burnt and the meat can get overcooked. So what I want to do is pull it into its body so it cooks really well. And all I have to do is tie the legs together and it'll do that. And you'll see. There are all these very complicated ways to truss a chicken, but this is about as easy as it gets. So I'm going to just take a length of kitchen twine and just tie these little legs together. And I leave long ends so it's easy to take the twine off. Nobody wants to eat twine for dinner. So just like that. And then its little wings just go under here. Just tuck them under. The whole bird doesn't have to be wrapped in twine. I've seen some birds that look like they're in bondage. Roast chicken's just the best kind of comfort food. And the good news is it can be a really simple meal or it can be a really elegant one. Okay, that's ready to go. And now I'm gonna make some vegetables. So all the juices from the chicken are gonna get into the vegetables and they'll all cook together. And it's gonna be so delicious. So into the oven, 425 degrees for about an hour and a half. Can't wait. That roast chicken smells so good. Looks perfectly done. It's been in for about an hour and a half, and there are lots of ways to tell when the chicken is done. Oh, and all those delicious juices coming out into the vegetables. So the first test, I'm just gonna take this little string off so nobody ends up eating it. First test is to shake hands with its leg. If it wobbles like that, it's perfect. The second one is to cut between the leg and the thigh and just make sure the juices are running clear. And if they are, it's definitely done. And it's done. So I'm just gonna cover it with aluminum foil. It's really important when you're roasting meats, chicken, beef, anything, to let it rest for about 20 minutes after it comes out of the oven. I'm just gonna keep it covered so it stays nice and warm. And all the juices run back into the meat and it makes it so delicious. And then I think I'll put the vegetables back in the oven and let them caramelize a little bit while the chicken rests. My chicken's been resting for about 20 minutes. It's gonna be perfect. Time to carve it. So the trick to carving a chicken is I'm gonna pull the leg off first. I find that easiest. So I usually take the legs off first. Put them on my platter. And depending on how big the legs are, I'll just carve them a little bit, but not too much, into sort of chunks. And then the wing comes off. Ugh, it's just so juicy inside. It's just wonderful. A friend of mine said that Julia Child, how's that for a teacher, showed her how to do this, and it's really brilliant. I've done it ever since. Take the entire breast off in one piece, and then slice it directly across, like this. The whole thing goes on the plate. When you cook a chicken at high temperature, the skin's one of the best parts because it's nice and crisp. And now the vegetables, I'm gonna keep this for later for chicken stock.
I'm just gonna mix it all together. All those juices, oh, it's just delicious. And all of these carrots and fennel and onions and fresh thyme. I'm just gonna put it right on the platter with the chicken. I'm gonna take all the juices of the vegetables and the chicken in the bottom and just run them all over the chicken. Really use everything in that pan. Just fabulous. Maybe a little sprinkling of good kosher salt over the top. Who wouldn't want to be home for this dinner?
I'm just gonna take a paring knife, make some slits in the fat, and we're gonna keep the fat on here. So I'm just gonna take garlic and just put it right into the prime rib. A lot of people that watch Food Network ask me, like, are you friends with the other Food Network hosts and chefs? Do you guys hang out together? And really, the bottom line is, like, absolutely. So we want the roast to get nice and crusty and crispy. You might be alarmed by how much salt I put on here, but we're not gonna actually eat all this salt. It's actually gonna form a crust, and it's gonna keep the prime rib incredibly juicy. And of course, some pepper. We're gonna start this at 450 degrees for 20 minutes, and I'm gonna turn it down to 350 degrees, and we'll let it cook through for about 3.5 hours. There we go.
Ooh, thyme butter, yeah.
What's that for?
That's my prime rib. Thyme butter is really simple. It's butter and fresh thyme and salt and pepper, and that's basically it. Thyme is a classic herb to go along with prime rib, and you know, who doesn't want butter?
Look at that. That's a beefcake and a big meat.
Look at that, 9.5 difficulty.
Salt, pepper, garlic, that's it.
Gorgeous.
That's the meat.
I love it.
And then we're gonna butcher this thing up. This is the centerpiece of our meal today. So I checked the roast and it looks like it's almost a perfect medium rare, but now I wanna let it rest. And it will continue to cook for a while.
Here, Sonny, would you like some wine?
Heck yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Ooh, it's smelling good in here. Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, it took me a long time to get ready.
I know, I was just telling these guys, I was like, where does she go?
I had a nice bubble bath.
Okay, I like that.
What is going on here? Look at that nice salty crust.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take all that off now.
My mouth is watering.
You see how juicy that is? That's because the fat cap just kind of protected it. So I'm making my sauce in the roasting pan. There's some drippings on the bottom. I'm going to put some shallots in there to glaze the pan.
Gosh, it smells so good.
And the prime rib. How about some red wine? Want to throw some red wine in there?
Just like a half a cup or more?
Like half a bottle.
Oh, half a bottle.
Yeah. Put that in there. Beautiful. And then a little bit of red wine vinegar.
Oh yeah, does that give it a tang?
Yeah, a little acidity. And then some black peppercorns.
Ooh.
And that's gonna be the sauce. So it's gonna be basically a red wine and thyme and butter sauce.
I am known for my big appetite in this group. I'm looking at this prime rib like this might even be big for me.
Show me the secret to slicing a prime rib.
All right, so you want to follow the bone here. So if you look at this, you kind of want to go in between it, and then just kind of straight down. So let's see what this is going to look like.
It's really hard for me to make conversation right now. It's like hard to concentrate.
That's the end cut.
Oh my God, look at this.
Gorgeous.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bobby, that meat looks amazing from over here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, God, look at that.
Ooh, yes, give me a straw.
Here we go.
I will take that.
Here you go. I will let you have it. And I'll grab the prime rib. And Christmas dinner is served.
A 5-pound piece of really good quality chuck roast. If I did this with something like a fillet of beef, by the time it was done braising, it would be tough and dry. I want it to be moist and absolutely delicious. I'm gonna pat it dry, helps in the searing, and then I'm gonna season it. Tablespoon of salt, it sounds like a lot, but it's a big piece of meat. And just all over. Whenever I serve it, people go, oh, I love pot roast. And a half a tablespoon of pepper. Big handful of flour on a plate. And then just roll the pot roast in it. So this is going to help searing the outside of the pot roast, but what it's also going to do is it's going to thicken the sauce. And this is where the big pot comes in. This is a Dutch oven, and it's just the best pot you can use for pot roast. So I'm just going to heat up about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Just enough to sear the meat all the way around. Just get it really nice and hot. What the searing is going to do is going to seal in the juices, but it's also going to make the sauce taste fantastic. Okay, in goes the beef. It's going to sear about 45 minutes on each side. In the meantime, I'm going to get the vegetables ready. I need 2 cups of carrots. And I think this pot roast is ready to be turned. I'm just
Just gonna turn it maybe a quarter of a turn so it gets browned all over. Oh, look how gorgeous that looks. Next, I'm gonna work on the celery. I need 2 cups of celery. Nice big chunks. You can do it more finely if you like, but I like the sort of earthy, chunky flavor of the big chunks of carrots and celery. Next is the onions. I've got 2 big Spanish onions. You can use regular yellow onions, but these are so much easier. Just give them a big rough dice. Next are the leeks. Okay, I'm just gonna give them a big rough chop. And these leeks are gonna go in with the onions and carrots and celery. It's gonna flavor the sauce. Okay, I think the meat's all seared. I'm gonna take this big baby out, put it on a plate, and then start making the sauce. Whoa. And put a little bit more olive oil in, and then I'm gonna sear all the vegetables. Get them nice and browned and caramelized. It's kind of like making soup. You always want to start with the vegetables and get them nice and brown. I'm going to cook them for about 10 minutes. Okay, while that cooks, I'm going to put some garlic in. And the garlic goes right in with the vegetables. With a tablespoon of salt. Just smells wonderful. Easy enough for every day and delicious for company. Bouquet garni can be really any kind of herbs, but I'm using thyme and rosemary from my garden. Sometimes what the French do is they like hang the string over the side of the pot, but we'll be able to fish it out. Right in. It's gonna flavor, it's gonna be fantastic. Next, some red wine. I like to use Burgundy for this. About 2 cups right in the pan. And what this is gonna do is gonna flavor the sauce. 2 tablespoons of cognac. Gives it that nice hit. And this is smelling pretty good. Okay, next is 1 can of whole plum tomatoes. I actually choose the tomatoes that are in tomato puree, so it's even thicker. 1 cup of chicken stock. I use homemade chicken stock if you can. It really does make a difference. Tomatoes and the wine. Celery and carrots. Fantastic. It's gonna make such a good sauce. Now it's just time to put the beef in. Oh, this is some large pot roast. Just slide it right in, and that's what's gonna make it taste moist and delicious. All the gorgeous sauce. I'm just gonna bring it up to a simmer, and then it's gonna go into the oven, and it's gonna cook for several hours until it's meltingly delicious. Who wouldn't want that for dinner? I would say this is pot roast good enough for company.